In September of 2014, Lightning Speed 1 ended after 40-plus seasons. It was actually a super huge decision for me to cut the series off, but once I did, my mind was immediately flooded with ideas of how to proceed from there. I couldn't just let Lightning Speed be. I had to make it better. My first course of action was trying to revise things. I wanted to take the older material of the series and revamp it to fit with the latter part, where I had believed things had gotten better. I mean, to be fair, it had, but it was also still garbage. Anyway, it hadn't even been a week before I was making my first changes. I posted a DeviantArt journal detailing my first plans for revision, which included quite a fair bit, to be honest. I was going to cut Iolana, Marley, Ellie, and Petal from the team. I was going to Thanos snap Jillian, Emily, Katie, Gloria, Kelly, and a bunch of useless Wonder Girls. I was going to give characters like Nano, Aspero, Jake's alien mom, and Emilio's wife actual personalities beyond bland potato. I was going to rework Leah's entire character to take her away from her original inspiration. I was going to have Emilio leave the team when he got married. I was going to foreshadow Naomi's betrayal better. I was going to revise the whole Mandy was a robot scenario, although I still wasn't going to nix it, which is an absolute shame. I was going to not put Timothy on the team, although like an idiot, I still had him appear in the season 11 finale just so he could die. My gosh, what kind of monster was I? Only a couple of these changes ended up really majorly affecting things going forward, and those were the name changes. The Wonder Girl we now call Christina actually started being called Christina by this point, and I also changed the name of that one Villains League member Jake fought in the parking lot in season 15 from Miss Priss, the dumbest name ever, to Primrose. I also officially changed the name of the dimension Jake is from to Ilia. I also changed the name of the real world to Rowalia, but wow, that name is stupid. Originally, the series was going to stay mostly the same through revision, with only minor things changing. Then, while looking through a lot of the older content, I became severely dissatisfied with the state of the series. Sometime after that, I started conceptualizing my first attempt at rebooting the series. It was going to be a simple reboot at first. I have an entire list of which episodes from Lightning Speed 1 were going to stay. I was looking to streamline the plot of LS1 and make everything generally fit together better, so again, a lot of things were going to stay the same. In fact, pretty much all of the major plot points from Lightning Speed 1 were still present in this semi-reboot. I also removed most every filler episode, but they weren't gone per se. I was planning to have a series of side stories alongside what was going to be the main series, which would include a lot of what I thought at the time were the better filler episodes, although my perceptions of what better meant were still absolutely awful. These side stories would be known as extra momentum. I also majorly cut down on how many people were going to be members of the team, cutting things down to just Jake, Rose, Mandy, Scylla, Naomi, Isabel, Gabe, Rita, Mason, Nano, Winona, Wreath, and Aaron. Strangely, the Disowned finale was also part of this entire thing, though. I have no idea why. Then, sometime later, I started looking at my plot points a little harder and realized there was still a lot of inexcusable crap there. LS1 was just unsalvageable, and a soft reboot wasn't going to give me what I wanted. I needed a straight-up hard reboot. That was when Lightning Speed 2 was born, being revealed on July 12, 2015, the date of Lightning Speed's 6th anniversary. Okay, yeah, elephant in the room. I'm surprised no one actually noticed that we celebrated the 9th anniversary twice. That's because I made a huge whoops and assumption many, many years ago and assumed that Lightning Speed was created in 2009 when it was actually created in 2010. I had always assumed I'd created Lightning Speed when I was in the 8th grade, but I was later confronted with compelling evidence that that wasn't the case, that being Jake's age when the series was created being 14. Jake's age in LS1 had always corresponded with whatever my age was at the time because I was just dumb like that, and considering Lightning Speed was created in the summer and my birthday's in the fall, it could have only been in the summer of 2010 when Lightning Speed was created. So hooray for me for being an idiot for a crud ton of years. There you go. Back to LS2 though. On July 12, 2015, LS2 was revealed to the public and I posted the first story of the new series called The Lightning Speed Team, just like the first story of LS1. In actuality, this story was very much a conglomeration of the first 3 episodes of LS1 with a few new twists. Essentially, the plot goes that Jake and friends are dissatisfied with their lives and want to become superheroes, but the Wonder Girls have a rule that no superheroes can exist without being associated with the Wonder Girls, so they can't. One day, though, there's a bank robbery that Naomi tells them about, even though she doesn't actually get involved in anything that happens afterward. and the group decides to go vigilante to try to stop it. The twist, though, is that they fail. Jake gets knocked out and wakes up on a stretcher after the Wonder Girls have already arrived to fix the problem themselves. Christina starts yelling at Jake because of course Christina is still here, but the villain that robbed the bank, which is once again Eve because of course it was, escapes, and Jake defies the Wonder Girls' orders and runs off after her. He ends up in the jungle and loses Eve before realizing he's in way over his head, and he gets super scared and wants to go home. That's when Iolana appears, shooting Jake with paralyzing darts and staring him down threateningly. Iolana asks him if he's here with Eve, and Jake answers that he was chasing Eve down to try to catch her because he's trying to be a superhero. Iolana lets Jake go and tells him that she's mad because Eve built her base in the middle of the jungle and Iolana doesn't like it, so she asks Jake to help her destroy it. Jake starts having self-confidence issues, but Iolana tells him that she believes in him and teaches him how to fight. Jake learns to fight in the span of a few hours, then Jake's friends find him. Jake gives his team a pep talk about proving that anyone with superpowers can be a superhero. Then, after Iolana also teaches them how to fight, they all go to Eve's base to fight. The whole fight scene is actually pretty well thought out, even if a few of the beats are a bit contrived. Before the team can end the fight, though, the Wonder Girls show up and take down Eve themselves. Christina then starts yelling at Jake again, telling him that he can't handle being a superhero before threatening him and leaving. This ends up stoking the fires of Jake's resolve to prove that he can be a real superhero, and with that, the Lightning Speed team is born. Things don't get better immediately, however. In fact, Rose's strict mother has forbade her from meeting with her friends again. Scylla's parents also understandably freaked out and grounded her, and Naomi states she wants nothing to do with the team. Even so, Jake is determined to make the Lightning Speed team work. I mean, overall, this was a much better beginning than the first time around. Jake's goals are clear and everyone has something to do. There were still a lot of problems here, though. The story starts in first person and shifts to third person in the second part. I posted onward because I was an idiot that had no idea how to write in first person, and all the first person nonsense is awfully written. The character introductions are extremely ham-fisted and awkward. The exposition goes on way too long. Way too many of the plot points were ripped straight from LS1 to the point where I feel slightly uncomfortable, made worse by the fact that they barely fit together in a coherent manner. The pacing is super janky. Christina is actually the worst. It took an entire year for me to finish the second story of LS2, even though I both started and teased Chapter 2 as early as 2 weeks after the upload of Chapter 1. The second chapter was known as the Prince of Darkness, and for the entire span of that year between Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, I kept the prince's identity a complete secret. I am surprised no one called my bluff and guessed who he was. Anyway, Chapter 2 was uploaded on July 29th, 2016. The story begins with Jake and Scylla walking together to see their friends. Or, I guess, just Mandy, considering Rose is still under house arrest by her mother and Naomi wants nothing to do with them. Just then, though, Jake sees these two kids across the street yelling for someone, but Scylla tells Jake not to associate with them. Jake does anyway against Scylla's wishes, noting that Scylla is acting super strange to the point of nearly acting violent, and yells at them from across the street. The children, Renee and Jonathan, yes, those ones from season 31 of LS1, although they are much different now, then explain that they're looking for their lost prince, who immediately shows up directly afterward. Starts being super cryptic and snarky, and then starts prodding at Scylla, calling her a Sarah Lou and trying to make her angry. Yes, LS2 used the Sarah Lou and Demora terminology from late LS1. I hate it. Anyway, things escalate to the point that the prince grabs Jake in a chokehold to get Scylla to reveal her true name. She does, then the prince teleports Jake away. Jake ends up in a shed full of sports equipment and is found by a football player that accuses him of being a spy for a rival team. Jake denies the accusation and says that he has no idea where he is. He and the football player talk for a while, and then it's revealed that Jake has been teleported to another world and he's now in Dubose. Even LS2 wasn't free of the curse of let's just abandon Ilya and go to Oklahoma. Also, the football player is Mason. He also has a best friend, and it's Gabe. Wow! So Jake tells Mason and Gabe that he's from Ilya, and Gabe immediately knows what Jake is talking about despite Mason's confusion. Gabe takes Jake back to his place, and also Isabel shows up. In LS2, Isabel is also from Dubose, and she's Mason's younger sister. She also still has the sword, but it doesn't talk this time. So Isabel reveals that she and Gabe are actually in league with the Wonder Girls, and Jake freaks out and tells them exactly why they absolutely should not call the Wonder Girls to come get him, but they don't listen and call the Wonder Girls anyway. Jake is forced to explain the situation to them. That's when the prince appears and starts being all menacing again. Jake, Gabe, and Isabel challenge him, but he reveals that he has the power to regenerate and heal his own wounds unnaturally quickly. He then grabs Jake in yet another chokehold and explains that he's messing with Scylla because of an ongoing war between the Saralus and the Demore, and Scylla is a Cerelu in the sect of Patientia, and the prince is a Demora in the sect of Ira, so they're destined to be at odds. Also, the prince finally reveals himself to be Antaeus. Wow, what a shocker. Meanwhile, Scylla goes to Rose's house to convince her to come with her and Mandy to save Jake, and Rose decides to defy her mother to go with Scylla and Mandy. Back with Jake, the Wonder Girls finally show up, but so do Antaeus' demon child servants, who immediately beat up the Wonder Girls and Gabe and Isabel and leave them unconscious on the floor. That's when Scylla bursts into the room in full-on Cerelu form, and she and Antaeus argue for a while, and Antaeus threatens to kill Jake if Scylla doesn't comply with his wishes. Jake begs Scylla not to listen to Antaeus because something self-sacrifice for the greater good. Then Antaeus gets nailed in the face by Scylla's Cerelu sword because Rose ran in, grabbed it out of Scylla's hand, and chucked it at Antaeus despite the fact that touching the sword was immensely painful or something. Mandy helps Jake up, Rose hugs Jake, there's tears, everyone is relieved and happy. And then Antaeus does a thing, and he and Scylla end up killing each other before anyone can even realize what's going on. Antaeus' body disintegrates into a black glass pendant, which Scylla tells Jake to keep watch over before she dies in his arms. Then Antaeus comes back! Remember that thing that happened with Red in LS1 where his powers were in his glass crown? That's what's happening with Antaeus now. He didn't die because it was only a normal sword that Scylla used to kill him and he could regenerate from that. So Antaeus starts attacking Jake after that to try to get his powers back. Rose and Mandy defend him, but Antaeus eventually gets to Jake and shoots him up with electricity to try to kill him. Jake miraculously manages to survive, though, finding he can redirect the electricity through his body, and he finally fires the electricity back at Antaeus, which startles Antaeus so bad that he just kind of runs off, especially since the Wonder Girls are already starting to regain consciousness. Jake blacks out shortly after this, and he wakes up far away from Gabe's house with Rose and Mandy, who decided they should run so the Wonder Girls wouldn't force them to go home. They're then approached by a strange man who introduces himself as Emilio Delane, a Cerelu of the sect of Industria. "Hello, Emilio. Good to see you again." So Emilio says he was sent to assess the situation after Scylla's death because he was a friend of Scylla's or something, and Jake and the others tell him that Antaeus killed her and they have the glass pendant Antaeus left behind. And Emilio tells them that the pendant contains Antaeus' power, and if they can kill him while he doesn't have it, he'll be dead forever because that's how it works in LS2. Emilio then asks if Jake, Rose, and Mandy want to help him avenge Scylla's death. Emilio out here avenging all the deaths. The team agrees, even though they kind of think Emilio is crazy, and they decide to set up camp in Dubose to lure Antaeus in. Then that never happens because this is where LS2 ends. I definitely had plans for more of LS2. The team was going to stay in Dubose for a good while, dodging around the Wonder Girls, who were out trying to find them while themselves trying to find Antaeus, and there probably would have also been high school shenanigans in there because that's just what Dubose is known for at this point. After that, though, there would have been Globe stuff. Yeah, that's right, I had Globe stuff on the brain. There's actually a fair number of character designs I had for Lightning Speed 2 as well. Besides Jake, Rose, Mandy, Scylla, Naomi, Eve, Iolana, Christina, Lilac, Maggie, Antaeus, Renee, Jonathan, Gabe, Isabel, Mason, and Emilio, I also had designs at the ready for Wreath, Red, Dahlia, Nias, Yang, Perellis, Jade, Rebecca, Mallory, Aspero, who had her name and entire backstory changed so she was just a normal girl named Lily, Natalie, Primrose, Goopy, Grievel, Kat, who was solely going by her supervillain name of Vixen by that point, and a character named Bianca, who was planned for the Unknown Agency arc in LS1 but was scrapped. On top of that, a crap ton more characters were also planned to return, including Nano, Winona, Carissa, Liu, Brittany, Jake's fake parents, Jake's alien parents, and Chardonnay. Some characters stayed exactly the same, but others changed. Nias became a quirky mad scientist. Yeah, not a Diametrics thing once again. Nano was made the science man of the Lightning Speed team. The FBI nonsense was changed to the Dubose Police Department just to make things seem more realistic. On top of that was the Globe stuff. The Villains League and LS2 were meant to be the small-time villains, while Globe were the ones behind the scenes working to accomplish their own nefarious goals. They were made up of Bianca, Jade, Dahlia, Chardonnay, and Winona. Yes, twist of all twists, Winona was to be evil in LS2, and Globe would eventually recruit Antaeus, Nias, and Red. Globe was essentially going to be the primary threat in LS2, looming through the entire series. Of course, all that would have only been if LS2 continued, which it did not. The problem very quickly became that I didn't want Lightning Speed to become situations that are completely out of Jake's control or influence the series, and all this Cerelu and Demora nonsense was severely cutting into my options. On top of that, I found the plot too convoluted, and I felt like I could do a better job. Nowadays, I look at Lightning Speed 2 and see an undercooked mishmash of way too many ideas that were never fleshed out enough to truly be anything. It was a shame, really. I I rushed into LS2 way too fast and it was a huge mistake. So Lightning Speed 2 was scrapped. What came next? Well, that's for next time. The final part of this entire retrospective, where we finally delve into Diametrics.